Hey guys, this is Andrei, a certified translator in the real estate concierge. My major business now is relocating people to Belarus. I have my own company, details will come here. And over the past 2 years I have relocated about 40 people to get temporary residency in Belarus. Several of them, like 2 or 3, not more than that, have upgraded to permanent residency by now. And today we're talking about legal let's say, interaction with legal agencies and law enforcement agencies to resolve the matters that you have bumped into, or the other way around. First things first, and the most important thing to highlight is the one that I'm not really with enforcement agencies anyhow, I'm not related to them anyhow, I love them, I love communicating with them, that's the next part. And it's not a legal consultancy over here, it's just my sharing experience with you, and basically this is a commercial, like extended commercial built into the channel. I know you like it. Since the very first weeks when my foreigners, mostly EU and US guys, started their things here on the ground, some of them have encountered different issues like dating some funny girls, a bit of blackmailing from their side, some other things like we could call them theft, but some attempted theft, and a few other things, but again really infrequent cases, otherwise I would be posting them maybe weekly. And you know the big Indian case about the relocation when folks were screwing other folks, buying them some bullshit houses for a cheap house near Minsk kind of crap, and people were led astray with that, and by far no legal agency took anything against them. And there is a big reason why nothing ever happened to that in that specific story. There are a few reasons why I should say thank God I'm not a lawyer. They are a rather interesting job in this country, but I have accumulated considerable experience of interacting with various agencies like tax office, the police, the courts, and I would say that I would make a perfect bridge between your trouble and them, be that personal application or operating on power of attorney. The very first and main thing to keep in mind about interacting with law enforcement agencies here is the law is pretty much written down, everything is pretty much literal, and the interaction with them is rather a long-term and complicated perspective. So when we meet the crooks and the fraudsters that we talked about in the Indian drama, we were sitting at the table with from one of the cases, and I was short of begging them of not involving any of the agencies because this is long, this is expensive, and this is rather complicated for a mind burdening, let's say, mind troubling, if not to say brain. So mostly people who never dealt with the system never listened to this, and then after I won the court with my builder, he says, oh, why this thing is so expensive here? Oh, because you refuse to talk like a human being at the table. That's the point. So the very first thing is to sit down and talk, or to try and get in touch with the guys who screwed you or are about to, and talk to them from, let's say, civilized and rather calm tone, and just see which points are you at and which are the key points of the trouble. Before you start calling these guys, and of course it's good if they reply messages or anything, it's very helpful if you actually have any evidence left, because in the story with the houses, a lot of people got their Telegram history reversed. Whatever promises, whatever obligations they had, everything vanished. So what I always tell my people, my folks who were troubled, when we have to address some, let's say, when we have to address some law enforcement, is what do we have on hand? If that's something like, oh, he gave us, he took us, blah blah blah, there must be cameras 6 months back. No, there are no cameras for 6 months back. Nobody gives a damn what happened then, and nobody really cares about promises. Whether or not you're a cool, straight guy, you've been paying taxes, you've been law-abiding guy and everything, you've dotted all the I's and everything, nobody really cares what you're going to say. But you have a legitimate right to file a claim and a request for some matter to be looked into. Matters normally are rather complicated, and just having a screenshot of something, and the capable crooks are always hiding the material traces of their stuff, is often not enough to get the job done. Although police most likely wouldn't care, and some people who have never been there may have some hope, and the other way around, the police visit is very vital if your negotiation has come to a dead end. If the guys are not really picking up, if they're not responding, then the cops are the best and the next basically stop to take. Writing down everything that belongs to the story. You don't have to make up anything, you have to produce everything you have on the table and get the consultancy from the police that gets your paper in. Obviously there are other agencies where you can take your complaint, and I have a knowledge of several ways of addressing a problem, several agencies that may be interested in a problem, but again, you have to have something on the table. If you recall the Indian drama case with the Indian fellas who took 42,000 guys off my friend, my client, Kavaljit, the paper trail is pretty handsome. There are contracts, there are stamps, there are signatures, and there are receipts, so it's kind of very interesting to see where it's gonna come. And since they're not really responsive, they are totally ignoring us, and the Sri Lankan owner of a cafe is actually being very rude when I'm indicating that he's using someone else's money. It's really interesting and exciting to see where it's going to lead us. After you have taken your story to several agencies, and if they weren't really interested, that means that most likely you presented zero or poor evidence to substantiate your claim against someone. There is court, long, boring, complicated in case with a foreigner, also expensive because a translator will have to be involved, and not necessarily very fruitful. But if you have a feeling of justice, which was the case with me and my construction project a few years ago, and you have determination to get the bad guy nailed at whatever costs, that's also important. Normally there is a fee of 5% payable to file a court claim against somebody when there is material damage, but that's for non-criminal cases. I will not elaborate on criminal cases because I never took part in those. And again, this is not legal consultancy, this is just my experience and my service offer as a certified and, let's say, an advanced version of a translator here in Minsk. Thank you very much for watching. Please tell underneath what kind of issues you've heard of happening in Minsk, what kind of troubles were resolved or remained unresolved with legal agencies, law enforcement agencies, and whether or not an expensive lawyer who seated you down on a leather-coated sofa helped anyhow, or just charged you some money and you remained with your problem on your own. This was Andrei from Minsk. I very much thank the patrons on Patreon and other guys who are donating. 2 links are down below to keep the channel going with nice sound and video. And hopefully there'll be more colorful videos very soon, because this Indian drama, scene 3, is about to start rolling again. See you later in Minsk. Cheers.